Who here has money? Raise your hands. Oh, come now. Who can go an hour, a day, a week without money?
Years.
When I said money, did you think of cash in your purse or wallet or coins in your pocket? Did you also include your ATM card or your debit card or your credit card? Or maybe the deposits you have in your checking and savings account? Or even some sort of electronic cash that you can access through your cell phone or your computer. The Federal Reserve calls all of those things money. And in the modern world, without money, there is no community, because it's that means of transaction. So what is money? Let's say that it's an accepted means of exchange. Today I want to talk about a form of money called bitcoins. Often I only have a bit of money. Bitcoins are revolutionary. They're relatively new and they're controversial. I want to use what you already know about money in the form of US dollars and to walk through a little bit of that history of Bitcoins so that you can walk away from here understanding what a Bitcoin is and why it might be incredibly important. What's a dollar worth?
$1. $1.
Dollars are so incredibly ubiquitous in the world that often we determine the value of other things in terms of dollars. But a dollar today was worth this many euros, which answers that question about as well as saying money is money. How many dollars are there? Would you believe just a few years ago there were $10.5 trillion. $12.5 trillion. More or less, because the Federal Reserve doesn't know how many dollars there are. They do estimate that about 1.2 trillion of those dollars are in the form of physical money. That means over 90% of your money is electronic. It's digital. It's kept in accounts. A Bitcoin is also digital money. So what's the difference? There is a central authority, the U.S. government, that's created an entity called the Federal Reserve, which controls how many dollars are out there. Bitcoins have no central authority. Now, why do we care about having virtual currency or digital money or things like that? Let's take that physical money and talk about it for a minute. I said there was about $1.2 trillion of physical money out there a few years ago. That equates to 91 bills for every man, woman, child, or transgendered person, or any other category of persons you can imagine in the United States. The odd thing is the distribution of those 91 bills. An incredible number of them are $100 bills. Now maybe I'm not typical, but I don't walk around with nearly as many Benjamins in my pocket as I do $1 bills. Why is this so? U.S. physical currency has the same role in the world today as gold once had. It's a medium of exchange and a store of value, especially for those who are in areas where the stability of the government and the currency is uncertain, or where they're seeking anonymity or a store of wealth that won't disappear, may not be subject to confiscation, taxation, or to be stolen as easily. So here it is, 91 bills per person. A big portion of that is distributed around the world. Even in countries that don't, and I know this is news to you, don't like the United States very much. People in Iran gladly exchange U.S. physical currency. People in Venezuela prefer it. to the Venezuelan currency. How can that be so? And what does Bitcoin do for us that US dollars don't? Essentially, with the world becoming electronic, people would like to have an electronic currency that has the same features as that physical US currency. They would like for it to be a store of wealth, something that's easily exchanged, something that's relatively secure. And they don't trust any one given government or entity. And so the Bitcoin was created out of internet technologies to allow for transactions that are secure using encryption. So what is a Bitcoin? It's virtual currency. And why do we want this virtual currency? To store value and to exchange. So let me walk you through a little bit of the history of the Bitcoin. In 2008, an anonymous individual published a 9-page white paper. You don't get much geekier than this, explaining the Bitcoin. And he released the software in January 2009, and the first instance of Bitcoin's peer-to-peer currency. Peer-to-peer means there's no central place where information is held. Instead, there's a ledger that's encrypted in a special way with public and private keys, so that if the majority of the systems out there say that the Bitcoin belongs to the person who holds a certain private key, then that person owns the bit key, that code. They also prevent me from giving that same code to Arnie to pay for my Toastmasters and then to Fred to pay for lunch. They won't allow that double transaction that banks prevent through keeping track of what you have in your accounts. And then the Bitcoin became valued in US dollars at an exchange rate of 1,309 Bitcoins to $1. 9 months later. And the first Bitcoin purchase occurred when a man in Florida asked somebody to buy him a pizza, and he offered up Bitcoins in exchange. And then WikiLeaks occurred. And Bitcoins came in the news because when the banking system cut off all transactions to fund WikiLeaks, Bitcoins became the currency to fund WikiLeaks. In 2013, you can see the value of Bitcoins stayed stable for a while, began to take off, and 2 copies of that ledger happened through a software glitch. And for an instant in time, Bitcoins didn't have any value because you couldn't determine it. But they fixed the software. And now look what happened to the value of Bitcoins after that. In 2013, the FBI shut down Silk Roads, a Bitcoin-based exchange for drugs and other illicit sorts of things. So you think that's bad news for Bitcoins, but a Bitcoin ATM came out, and then the U.S. Senate held a hearing where the FBI said itself, virtual currency is legitimate, and Bitcoins took off. Then Mt. Gox, who captured 70% of the Bitcoin exchange market, went belly up. Still, Bitcoins drove on. There actually was the first regulated Bitcoin fund out of New Jersey in 2014. By January 2015, Coinbase was launched. 25 states regulating a Bitcoin exchange. And in May of 2015, New York created the first standard for licensing Bitcoins in New York. You can see the history of Bitcoins going mainstream and who takes it. So you can buy from Dell, Microsoft, OkCupid, and other places with Bitcoins. These things are real. In fact, you can go down the road here in Santa Cruz and up Silicon Valley, and someone will physically make an exchange of money for Bitcoins or Bitcoins for money with you. So, Bitcoins are virtual currency. They have no central authority. Instead, they rely on this peer-to-peer architecture. They're wildly important because they're a revolutionary technology that is just now coming into regulatory environment. Thank you.